Hey everybody, it's Irene with BrainStormAcres, and obviously I'm back in the garden again. Now the other day I spent, I don't know, a while going through these two beds. These two here are blackberries. I cleaned off a lot of the dead sticks that are at the base of the new sprouting leaves. So I keep going through every day. Anything that I find it's falling off gets taken out. I cleaned out all the weeds, and I did a decent layer of mulch. I also replaced a few of what I call my ugly rocks. In other words, I had like these rocks are holding the irrigation line in place because I didn't have enough loops or hoops or whatever when I was putting them in, so we just plopped rocks on it because we always have rocks around here. But I had, like in that bed, there was a piece of concrete. So I replaced the ugly rocks with nicer looking rocks and generally got this all cleaned up. My goal that day was to just clean them and mulch them and then go ahead and get them watered. And I managed. I'm continuing this process as I go on. I watch for leaves that have come off. I watch for more of the little sticks that are falling off. And every day when I'm out here in the morning, and some other times too, with Rufus, I just check things over. And I watch to make sure there's nothing going on. I did a, I think, better than average job of, of doing that video. And then the camera lost its mind and did not properly handle the video. So, yeah, I'm trying to remember the things I talked about, and some of it comes to me, some of it doesn't. Mostly it was paying attention to what's going on. The old leaf stems and stuff from last year are gradually falling off the rest of the way, and I'm picking them up and taking them away because we're still really new at growing blackberries and raspberries here, and we're trying to do our best to eliminate any kind of disease or insect problems or anything else like that. So until we have a better sense for what's attracted to these things, what sort of problems we're likely to have, we're just going to be paying extra close attention. My goal today is to get this bed mulched and weeded and ready to go. This is raspberries. And you can see all these new sprouts that have come up, these new shoots for canes that will be producing fruit for next year. This year's fruit will be produced on these canes that are from last year. So this has been pretty well weeded. I just have to get my little deep root weed remover, and every time, about half of the time when I think I have a weed, it turns out to be actually a new cane coming up, which is just fine. There are a few weeds in here. This is a white horehound. There's a few bits of grass. Not going to worry about too much, but I do want to get any of the deep-rooted weeds out of here and get on to just letting them do their thing. I also need to read my instructions and put down probably some fertilizer. We have had very breezy weather the last couple of days, so I've been putting extra effort into watering, and I just watered last night. I just watered the asparagus again, extra good, and I'm going to be doing the same thing for this. Right now I'm still using a watering can because I have a tank full of free rainwater that I'm just scooping it out of and hauling it over. It's not a big deal. Each double watering can is about, because I have two different water cans, two different sizes, that gives me about 5 gallons. So I figure if I put about 10 gallons on each bed as a start, and then I'll monitor. I've been trying to decide whether they're getting enough moisture. I'm not 100% sure at this point. So yeah, we will be turning on the automatic irrigation soon, but we need to check the weather forecast. The current forecast is all over the place again. 1 minute it says there's no chance of precipitation, the next minute it says there's a storm coming. So I don't worry about the storm so much as I worry about the temperatures. As long as we're not going to get down really low again, like in the 20s, we're probably okay. But yeah, trying to do this the right way. So let me get my weeder. I managed to forget that on the way out the door because I was busy talking to Rufus. Ta-da! Yeah. My weeder. We had some runaway thistles in here last year. So I don't know whether these seem to be new seeds, so my guess is that some blew in. I try not to let thistles go to seed in the yard, but of course thistle seeds can travel quite a distance, so sometimes they get a good start anyway. But I'm just going to go through here and monitor. That's a fillery, which is a pain. That's one of the things I talked about last time, is that we have some invasive weeds here that we didn't start out with. We spent good money to buy topsoil when we first moved here to fill some beds, because we had tried the grow in the dirt thing and decided that we wanted more progress sooner than trying to build up the soil the hard way. And since there are no deciduous leaves around here to provide good compost, and we don't really have a lawn to mow or anything because you can't afford a lawn around here, the water costs too much. We had bought some topsoil, and the topsoil came with goat heads and bindweed. Prior to that time, we never had goat heads or bindweed in our yard. And if you don't know what goat heads are, they are a nasty plant that has a very cute little yellow flower. It almost looks like a miniature buttercup or something like that. But it produces seeds that have spikes, and it's called a goat head because they're shaped kind of like a goat's head, and each corner of that head, if you made it sort of geometrical, has a spike on it. And those spikes are sufficient to go through, sneakers, sometimes bicycle tires or garden cart tires, puppy toes, kitty toes, all that kind of stuff. And don't ever step on one barefoot. It's a really bad experience. We spent a couple of years religiously pulling goat heads, and generally speaking, we have it pretty well under control now. We bought that soil probably 15 years ago, and Rufus has gotten 3 goat heads in his toes since he came to visit us a year ago. So that's not too bad, but I wish I could say the same thing for the bindweed. The bindweed is in the morning glory family. Morning glories of all kinds are technically against the law to grow in Arizona for agricultural reasons because they are considered to be incredibly invasive. I thought that was a little weird when I first got here, but I understand now. The problem is that bindweed has been hit with Roundup by the agricultural people so many times that it's completely immune to Roundup. No effect whatsoever. You could literally pour the stuff on the plant and nothing will happen. So, not that I would want to do that, but wow, I tell you, it's a temptation sometimes. If it would work, but it doesn't, so you're wasting your time, just poisoning your garden. So bindweed pops up through a combination of roots and seeds. So that is, and it goes everywhere, no matter how hard you work at it. So there is some bindweed in a couple of these beds. It comes up around the edges like this. And you'll see me, one of my friends calls it spaghetti. You'll see me pull these guys out. And I'm trying to be super religious this year about keeping up with it. Because if I manage to keep up with it pretty well and don't allow it to spread more, then theoretically I can at least control it if I can't get rid of it. And the most effective way we've ever found to get rid of it, or at least to control it, is to literally incinerate the top of the soil with a garden burner. And we have done that before. We used to have, this whole area here was covered with bindweed. And we just came in with a garden weed burner and just absolutely incinerated it. That knocked it down for pretty much a year. Now, eventually it comes back, but if you could keep up with that every year, you probably would never get rid of it, but you could at least control it, which is our goal. So all I'm removing here is the deep-rooted things that are mostly thistle here. We don't get too many dandelions around here. But yeah, that was one of those, we thought we were doing the right thing by buying good quality soil, and we wound up with a lot of trouble. And there's nothing you can do about it. I mean, the attitude is going to be, well, you ordered soil, you get what you get. And it's like, yeah, okay, I didn't expect invasive weeds with it, but especially since we didn't have them. You know, if we had them beforehand, it would be one thing, and you just say, oh, well, at least we got better quality soil, but no, we also have the invasive weeds to go with it now. So kind of more than slightly annoying, especially since we try and do everything organically, and there is nothing that I have found that will even touch the bindweed. You can use the usual vinegar and salt that we would put on regular weeds, and it just goes, oh, whatever, liquid, you know. So, no good. Okay, we're almost done. As I said, I've gone through this several times before, so it's not too bad. Not too bad at all. I am also removing a few of the like little leaves and stuff that just sort of drifted into the corners, because I want to not have any place for bugs to hide. Because bugs are us. We're already seeing quite a few bugs this year, and I'm like, ooh, hopefully this is not going to be a particularly buggy year. See, a couple of, that just broke right off. That was last year's cane. And there's the tag from last year. It says Nova Red Raspberry. I did see there's a couple of ends here I will probably trim off at some point where the canes didn't make it. But for right now, I'm not going to worry about it too much. I mostly just want to get it started. So, Henry bought a bunch of mulch. The mulch we're using is an inexpensive mushroom compost. We get this particular stuff at Home Depot. We have had other kinds. During COVID, they could not get this stuff from Home Depot. So we were getting mulch from True Value Hardware instead, because they had it in stock. And that was exactly the reason we were getting it. It's a bigger bag, which means it's a bit more heavy to haul around. So if you don't like big bags. It was good quality. So what you need to do, depending on where you live, is just find some sort of mulch that you're comfortable with. Some of the mulches have manure in them. Some of them don't. This particular one does not have manure in it. And we're fine with that. We'll simply add fertilizer to the bed. And I need to check my instructions to see what kind of fertilizer they're recommending. And that will be one of the things I do today. But I'm trying to get an inch or two of mulch. Hi, Rufus. Got a scratchy, itchy spot? He says, yeah. Got some scratchy, itchy spots, Mom. It is spring. My Weather Channel app warned me this morning that tree pollen was probably going to be pretty heavy this morning, and grass pollen would be moderate. I don't know if they're right or not for here, because it's still a little early here. Not because of the time of the month or anything, but because of the weather we've had. So, yeah, I don't know. I'm sure the trees will let me know, and I will be snuffly, suitably snuffly. The vets and stuff are already warning that it could be a bad pollen year. So don't forget that your critters can also have allergic reactions to things. We don't tend to think of animals as being allergic to stuff, but they certainly are. Rufus had a rough spring here, actually last summer. But that was before we had figured out his food allergies. So we're hoping that now that we figured out his food allergies and some of his plant allergies, so that we actually won't have those in the yard anymore, that he will have a slightly less dramatic spring this year. Okay. Trying to be very gentle with the new canes that are coming up, but I still want to get the mulch in around the bases. I recognize that in many places in the United States you don't need to do this. For us, maintaining the moisture content of the soil here is a critical fact. The most difficult thing about gardening here is not the heat or the bugs or anything else, it's actually being able to afford the water. We had originally planned to do a few more beds, and the reality is we have reduced the number of beds that we are growing, and we have switched more to interior growth in the greenhouse. A few years ago, I don't know, standing in line somewhere, I forget whether it was the post office or the local convenience store or something, and I was listening to some of the locals who'd been here for quite a number of years talking, and they're like, well, it's hardly even worth trying to grow anything outside. You're just much better off growing it in the greenhouse. At the time, I was still growing a lot of stuff outside, and I was like, wow, gee, that's kind of negative. I wonder if they're just not good gardeners. But the reality is, for most people here, you're better off growing inside than you are outside. I still grow flowers outside because I think flowers are awesome. And I just have to accept the fact that sometimes they get munched by rodents or something. Just one of those things. Every place you live has its challenges, whether it's a short season or too much rain or not enough rain, and each year has their challenges, because you never know until it happens. You know, they can forecast all they want that you're going to have a wet summer or a dry summer, and then the rain decides to go one county over or one valley over, and yeah, you don't get anywhere you are. And now all of a sudden you've got to water, and I've been watching a couple of bigger channels online, and oh my goodness, they're slow learners. We took one look at their place when they moved there and said, you're going to have a learning curve because this new location is not down in a hollow, it's up on top of a hill, it's going to get a lot more wind exposure. Just dead. Yeah, it is. It's going to get a lot more wind exposure, and the net result is you're going to have to water, and if you don't water, your stuff is just not going to grow. And sure as heck, guess what? They didn't water, and they didn't understand frost, and they didn't understand. Yeah, it was fascinating. It was like, okay, you maybe have a lot of people watching you, but you're pretty innocent when it comes to things. And what bothers me is not the innocence. We're all innocent in some way. What bothers me is how slow some people are to figure it out.